guys, how's everyone doing today? Well, this video I have to thank Sue Smith. If you recall, I've done some videos on Shouty. I've looked at our home country of Nigeria, but I've never been able to find any history on her because she removed everything from her Wikipedia. All it really says is stuff to do with her 3 kids and husband. There's nothing about her family. Well, Sue put a screenshot up, and it had her father's name and her grandfather's name. That's all I needed. So from there, I got to work, and boy, yes, I found stuff. I used to always wonder why Shouty has such a problem with the royal family. She calls them out for privilege and yada yada yada. But I used to think to myself, is it because she comes from nothing that she's had to scrounge her way up to what she has today? Nah, Shouty doesn't. Shouty's never struggled a day in her life. So let's get into this video. Shouty's family and the history of monarchs from Lagos that were involved in the slave trade. So from Sue's video, I saw that Shola's father's called Prince Adebayo Babington Ashe. So that from there, I got into Google, typed my little fingers around, and I found a memorial service from his funeral. So I'm going to play that here.
26th of October 1947, and attended the West Ham College of London and the South West London University, where he got a degree in accounting. He worked with leading accounting firms before he founded the Babington Ashe and Co. Chartered Accountants, which is one of the country's leading accounting firm.
He did very well, in his private life, family life, also in his professional life. He was outstanding. So I'm so proud of him, so proud to be associated with him. But that said, I missed him. I missed his company, I missed his wise counsel, I missed everything about him. I wish he's here today.
He was a former president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria and the former president of the Lagos Lawn Tennis Club.
Now, if you've watched my Nigeria video, you'll know that there's a lot of hardship in that country. You're either rich or poor. There's terrible crime. It's just unbelievable. Foreign countries are still sending aid to Nigeria. It's still basically classed as a third world country. So Shouty's dad, as you heard there, he went to school in London, president of a tennis club, had his own accounting business, one of the top ones in Nigeria. Of course it is, he's the bloody prince, isn't he? Now, for some reason, Shouty's hiding everything about her family. It used to be on her Wikipedia. It's gone now. But thanks to Sue showing that screenshot, obviously I was able to find stuff. But it's interesting that she's hiding this. And the only reason I can think of that she would do this is because she wants people to think she's came from nothing and worked her way to where she is now, worked her way up. Or it's to hide the fact that her family are descended from monarchies from Lagos who were slave owners, the worst kind. I've actually found excerpts from a slave that the British freed from Lagos and his accounts into what those pieces of shit did to him. I'll show you that in a little while. But first of all, Shola. Let's talk about her. So here's a post that she put up when her father passed away, proving that she is royalty. She's unbelievable. She'll slag our royalty. But this bitch, it comes from probably one of the worst kind of royal families that there ever was. This woman calls our royal family white privileged, colonists, everything that you can think of. When her own family's ancestors, whatever, were involved in selling their own fucking people. No wonder you're hiding who your family is. No wonder you're hiding who your family are, Shouty. Because of all the attention you've got through advocating for the two grifters in Montecito. If people had to find out about your family's past, you'd be done. You'd be done. So on Twitter, I've seen Shouty go on about how she was raised in the UK, but funny how her biography on her own website states that she was raised in Nigeria and the United States. That's interesting, Shouty, because I've always wondered how you didn't have an English accent. I've always wondered when I've heard you. Her accent doesn't sound very English to me. Sounds kind of like she's got a bit of a Nigerian accent. Kind of interesting that you're on Twitter saying that you're fully English. You've been born, raised, bred here. Yet your own website says otherwise. Fucking liar. I also found an interview that her father had gave, which kind of explains to me why Shouty has a hatred for white people. But in this part, he said that his father had 15 wives. It made me think, I didn't know that polygamy was a thing in Nigeria. But I know they have a large Muslim population, so I'm not going to go into that. Whatever Shouty and her family's faith is has nothing to do with me. But in this part of the interview, he goes on about how he travelled to England to study, also studied in Lagos. Something that you'd need to have money to do. But this is the part of the interview that interested me the most, of his time in England and what he went on to say about white people. What he says is, I would take quite some time because the whites didn't feel comfortable having blacks around. Being an accountant, you have a first-hand information of the company's details, and the whites wanted to be sure they could trust you, so no one wanted to employ blacks. Blacks were called animals, uncivilized people. Even getting an accommodation was a challenge. On the street you would see signposts such as no coloured and Irish allowed. Now, while I think any sort of racism of any kind is unacceptable, I wanted to look into this claim because this interview was done in the 90s, and I found this article. So the no Irish, no blacks, no dogs sign, there's one sign of this, and it's in an Irish museum, and many people think that it's a fake. Now, I wasn't around obviously in 1960s England, and I can't verify if this is true or not, but everything that I went to find for this no blacks, no Irish kind of these signs that were in hotels, there's only one to be found, and as I said, many people have said that this one sign is a fake. So I don't know if Shouty's dad has seen this one sign when he's I'm not sure, read about it in a newspaper, I'm not sure, and then added it to his story where he said that the white people were horrible to him. I would hate to think that he came to the UK and white people were disgusting to him. But I have to look back at things we have done in our history, and I look back to the Battle of Bamber Bridge, and I'm going to show you some clips about that. It's when the Americans came over in World War II, and they had brought black servicemen with them. Now, in that time, Jim Crow laws were still rife in America. Absolutely vile. And so the black servicemen, the British people had invited the black servicemen to drink in this pub. And the white Americans didn't like this because they believed that white and black people should be separated. So they went to the pub and told the landlord to keep the black servicemen out. And he was like, okay. So the military police went away. They came back the next night and the landlord had put a sign up and it says, no whites. So I just love the British humour. So he had effectively took offence to what these white Americans had said and decided, no, they were the ones, instead of a sign that said no blacks like they had in America at that time, he was putting a sign up that said no whites. And because of that, a fight erupted, and unfortunately a black service member got killed. But it was white British people that stood by these black servicemen fighting alongside in England, in a little town in England, fighting alongside them, throwing down against the American military police, and they managed to beat them back, but unfortunately someone got killed. Because in Britain we didn't know anything. We never had Jim Crow laws. We've never had a time where we've separated someone because of the colour of their skin, where someone has to go to another school or get on a different bus. We just all use the same, go to the same schools, use the same public transport. We've never had anything like that. So for that to come over to our country, that would have been alien to us. We would not have understood that at all because we see everyone as equal. And I get why they fought back, because they would have thought, what is this bullshit, Like, what? So, yeah. So, back to Shouty. This kind of makes perfect sense as to why she hates white people, because if her father's told her about his hardship in England with white people, it's obviously she's going to take offence now to white people. She's going to have that ingrained in her. I mean, if he's telling that to an interviewer, obviously he's told that to his daughter. So also in the interview, he states that he'd no reason to settle down in England. Nigeria was his home. He's a black man and black is meant for Africa. I think that's racist, to be honest, because black people can live anywhere they want. They're not just meant to stay secluded to Africa. He then went on to say what you earn in the UK is what you'd earn in Nigeria, which is not true at all. Not for the many other Nigerians that are not from royalty. They're not earning what people were making in the UK. Maybe for Shouty's dad, but not for the average Nigerian person, which just goes to show how elitist and privileged that he came from. He then went on to talk about his wife and said that she should be there to take care of the home and family, to take care of her husband, and she wouldn't eat until he got home. She would sit and wouldn't eat dinner until he decided to come home. Which, for Shouty, who claims to be a fucking feminist, it's kind of interesting that. Also in the interview, he said that he's never lived in a rented apartment, and he went on about how his private school was so good and they only produced successful boys. Something that many Nigerians could never have. They could never have their own bought house. Most of them are living in rented accommodation, and they could never afford to go to this private elite school. And as you know from Shouty's own website of her, where she grew up, etc., she went to schools in England, and there's been articles about how African elites, how they're able to send their kids to these schools, and the dubious ways that people are wondering how they afford this. So let's also get into the Lagos monarchies and their involvement in the slave trade and how Britain put a bloody end to it, which in my opinion allegedly could also explain Shouty's hatred for the United Kingdom. After all, it was the United Kingdom that put an end to these to this disgusting way that Nigerian monarchy abused their own people and made money. So as this article that I'm showing you says, it's actually from a paper, and it's saying that Nigeria started at Windsor Castle. Modern Nigeria started at Windsor Castle when a slave had been brought to see Queen Victoria and had told her about he'd been rescued from his owners, from the slave trade, from the British Navy, and they went to see Queen Victoria to explain to her what was going on in Lagos, what atrocities were going on in Lagos, and what the royal families were doing to their own people. And this African gentleman who came to see this, who was a former slave, who came to see Prince Albert and Queen Victoria, he was telling her how bad it had got, and that slaves, his mother and his sisters had been sold, and people had been beheaded by these Lagos monarchs for their religious beliefs. He told them of a Nigerian prince called Prince Odire, who had been buried with, and his own slaves had been buried with his corpse. They were buried alive with his corpse. Absolutely fucking vile, man. It's vile. Now, kings in Nigeria were called Obas, and he had also told Queen Victoria that they were slave magnates. They owned warehouses full of slaves for processing and sending them to market. No words. Now, this African gentleman named Crowber also went on to say that one of the sons of one of the kings didn't want to become the Oba until he became a major slave trader. He also told Queen Victoria that every single monarch in Lagos, that they were all involved. They were the biggest slave traders, sending their fellow Africans to the Americas more than any monarchy. So that's Shola's ancestors we're talking about here. He also went on to say that the revenue from the slave trade, not just him, the British intelligence had got whiff of this as well, that the revenue from the slave trade had purchased their castles, their palaces, their clothes, royal umbrellas, hats, stylish robes. You can read it here if you just pause it and read it. The king he brought back slaves already established because he needed their carpentry, masonry, and just their skills on building Brazilian type houses and producing European items in Lagos. So the slaves that they sold, they would then go back and re-get them again, repurchase them, and put them back into slavery to build their shit for them. It's unfucking believable. It's unbelievable that Shouty can criticise our royal family when she comes from this. No wonder she's hiding it. No wonder she's hiding it. I'd be ashamed too, Shouty. I'd be hanging my head in shame too. There's so much more disgusting things that these Lagos monarchs did, but the British were so incensed in what they heard that they decided to attack Lagos. And in 1851, they attacked with the goal to abolish the Atlantic slave trade and overthrow the Lagos monarchs. And they did. They finally overthrew these pieces of shit and told them that they were to stop this. It's unbelievable that these people were selling their own people, selling their own children. I've even got a screenshot of these monarchs that were stealing people's children and selling them and even selling their own for castles and palaces and fine clothes. Imagine selling your own people. So I now understand why Shouty hides this. I really do. She can't claim to be this woke defender of black people when her ancestors were selling their own fucking people. And she's got an absolute cheek to tell our government that they need to pay reparations. Shouty, your family, your ancestors own more reparations to black people than our fucking royal family does. We weren't selling our own people. We weren't selling our own people so we could have a new dress or a fancy house. We don't sell our people. However, your ancestors, the monarchy you come from, they did. So you should feel disgusted, and you should saying that we should pay reparations when you come from that, you cheeky bitch. You goddamn cheeky bitch. Now I have tons more of crap about her family, but I'm going to leave this video here. It's 21 minutes. Yeah, we're hitting that. But this kind of gives you an idea of what that callous bitch comes from and how hypocritical it is for her to criticise Britain and our royal family. She is a hypocrite, a hypocrite. So thanks very much for watching this, guys. Let me know in the comments section what you think. Isn't it nice to finally get some proof that she comes from royalty and she's an absolute hypocrite. So I'll speak to y'all later. Love y'all. Bye.